My name is Amanda Lowe. And yes, I'm the woman who slammed the court file onto my sister's lap in front of a full courtroom and said, "You forged his signature, Ava. You stole our father's house. And today I'm stealing your freedom." Let me know where you're watching from in the comments. Because I promise you, if you've ever been betrayed by someone who was supposed to love you, you're not alone. This story begins in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, on the coldest day I can remember, in the living room that used to mean Christmases, forts, and tea parties, but ended up being the place where my family fell apart for good. I was 9. My sister, Ava, was 11, and we were both crying so hard it felt like we were underwater. The snow outside hadn't stopped in hours. Fat flakes pressed against the frosted windows, but inside the heat was unbearable, fueled not by the furnace, but by the rage of two people who once vowed to love each other. My parents. "You think you're taking both girls? Over my dead body," my father growled, standing between us and the front door. My mother's eyes burned with contempt. "You've poisoned them long enough, Richard. Ava comes with me. Amanda stays if she wants to rot in this tomb of a house. I want both my daughters." "You lost that right the day you brought your assistant into our bed." I didn't understand what half of it meant, not yet. All I knew was that something irreversible was happening, and Ava's hand in mine was the only thing keeping me from dissolving into sobs. She squeezed it tight. "I'm not leaving without Mandy," she whispered. But she did. My mother stormed across the room, grabbed Ava by the arm, and yanked her away with such force her hair tie snapped and scattered dark curls across her cheeks. Ava twisted back toward me, reaching, screaming my name as I lunged forward. My dad held me back. "No," I cried. "Ava, don't go, please, please don't go." She was sobbing too now, fighting to break free, but our mother had her in a vice grip. "This is how it has to be," she spat at my father. "You raised Amanda to hate me. Fine, keep her. You deserve each other." And just like that, the door slammed shut. The wind howled through the house in the seconds that followed. My breath caught in my throat as I stared at the space where my sister had been. I ran to the window, pressed my hands to the icy glass, and watched her being dragged down the snow-covered driveway toward a green Subaru. She looked back once. It wasn't long, but it was everything. Her face was red, streaked with tears, eyes wide with panic, mouthing my name until her lips disappeared into the white blur. I don't remember the rest of that night. Just the thud of my heart as I stared into the snow, waiting for her to turn back. She never did. 10 years later, I stood at the top of the stairs with a set of fresh linens in my arms and a weight I couldn't name sitting on my chest. I hadn't seen Ava since that night. Not once. I used to Google her name, search her school's yearbooks, scroll through social media with the desperate hope of finding her face. But after a while, the silence was louder than the search results. At some point, I stopped expecting her to come back. But last Tuesday, my dad stood at the kitchen counter and told me, casually like it was any other update, that our mother had died. A car accident, out of state, and Ava was moving in with us. "Wait, what?" I had whispered, holding a mug of tea I no longer remembered making. Dad just nodded, his face tight with the same tired calm he used when bills were overdue or the roof leaked. "She's got no one, Amanda. You're her only sister. She's staying here. She has family on Mom's side. Not the kind that shows up." He wasn't wrong. The last time I saw my mother, I was 13 and she showed up unannounced at a school play I was in, sat in the back row and left before I came off stage. No hug. No hello, just vanished again. Ava had been with her then too, but I only caught a glimpse, a shadow in the aisle, glancing away when I tried to meet her eyes. After that, nothing. Until now. I pushed the door open to the guest room and stood in the doorway, looking at the room that used to belong to my grandmother before she passed. It smelled faintly of cedar and lemon polish. The floral wallpaper hadn't changed. Neither had the rickety bed frame or the chipped vanity mirror that always made your face look a little warped. I laid the sheets down and began stripping the mattress, my hands working faster than my thoughts. Ava was 21 now. I was 19. But in my head, she was still the girl with tangled curls and scraped knees who used to make up songs about our Barbies and swear me to secrecy over every diary entry. A part of me hoped she'd be the same. Another part knew that hope was stupid. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept imagining how it would go. Would she hug me? Would we talk about Mom? Would she remember the way I used to cry myself to sleep, whispering her name into the dark? I wanted to believe the years hadn't hardened her. That our bond hadn't eroded past saving. But when the doorbell rang the next morning and I opened the front door, I knew I'd been naive. Ava stood there like a stranger. She was taller than I remembered. Paler, too, dressed in sleek black jeans and a wool coat too clean for Milwaukee slush. Her hair was perfectly styled, not the wild curls I used to braid for her. She held a single black duffel in one hand and wore earbuds in both ears. For a moment, she didn't say anything. Just looked me up and down. Then she pulled out one earbud and said, "Amanda." Her voice didn't rise with joy. It didn't shake with emotion. It was flat, polite. Like we were awkward neighbors, not sisters torn apart in a living room war zone 10 years ago. I swallowed. "Hi." Behind me, Dad came into the foyer and clapped a hand on Ava's shoulder like he hadn't missed a decade of her life. "Good to see you, kiddo, come on in." Ava stepped inside, her boots clicking on the hardwood. She didn't look around. Didn't ask how I'd been, just walked straight past me and up the stairs like she'd been doing it her whole life. But she hadn't. I stood frozen, the draft from the open door chilling the back of my neck. Later that day, I passed her in the hallway. She was hanging her coat in the closet and didn't notice me at first. I opened my mouth to say something, maybe even, "It's good to see you." But she turned and caught my eye, and that second of eye contact felt like hitting a wall. She looked away before I could speak. Dinner was silent. Dad made spaghetti. We all sat at the kitchen table, the same one we used to color on as kids, and ate like coworkers forced to share a break room. I offered her the garlic bread. She nodded. Not even a thank you. Still, later that night, I stood outside her door with a mug of tea, chamomile, her favorite when we were little. I raised my hand to knock, but her music was loud. And I suddenly felt like a fool for thinking something as simple as tea could mend 10 years of silence. I turned away. But I didn't give up. I couldn't. Because somewhere inside that icy stranger was my sister. And maybe, she was hurting too. It was a Wednesday night when Dad called us both into the dining room. He was trying. I'll give him that. He'd picked up those boxed chicken pot pies from Mitchell's Market, the ones that came with buttery crusts and little packets of cranberry jelly, like that made it festive. He set the table with cloth napkins like it was Thanksgiving, and not just another painfully quiet weeknight with two daughters who barely knew how to sit beside each other. "Figured we could all eat together tonight," he said, forcing a smile. "Been a long time since we did that." Ava didn't even look up from her phone. "Sure," she muttered. I helped set out the glasses. Even filled hers with the lemon sparkling water she used to love, just in case she still did. She didn't thank me, but I noticed her drink was the first thing she finished. The silence was a second guest at the table, louder than the clink of forks and knives. I could feel it pushing against my chest, daring me to say something, anything to cut through the tension. So I tried. "I saw a sketchbook in your bag earlier," I said, keeping my voice light. "Do you still draw?" Ava didn't look at me. She wiped her mouth with the corner of her napkin and said, "I don't know, do you still talk to people like you're interviewing them?" My face flushed. Dad cleared his throat, shifting in his seat. "I just meant I remembered you loved to draw. You used to sketch in the margins of your school books." "That was 10 years ago," she said flatly. "People change." "Right," I said softly. "Of course." Ava's eyes flicked toward me, and for a brief second there was something almost like guilt there, but it vanished as quickly as it came. "Do you remember that mural we painted in the garage?" I tried again. "The one with the stars and that weird owl that looked like a potato?" That earned me a ghost of a smirk, but it faded before it could reach her eyes. "I remember getting in trouble for it," she said. "Mom was furious." Dad glanced between us, hopeful. "You two were thick as thieves back then." "Until you split us in half," Ava muttered under her breath. The words hit the table like a dropped plate. "I didn't split anyone," Dad said, voice tightening. "Your mother made the decision." "Oh right, the poor, innocent dad with no say in anything," Ava snapped, finally putting her phone down. "That's the version you're selling now." "Ava," I said gently. "It's not that simple, don't." Her gaze pierced through me. "You weren't there, Amanda. You have no idea what she went through." "And you have no idea what I went through here," I said, more sharply than I meant to. Ava pushed back her chair. "I'm not doing this." She stood, grabbed her plate, and carried it to the sink. Dad sighed, rubbing his forehead. "Ava, please, this was supposed to be a start." She rinsed her plate in silence, her back to us. I wanted to say something to call her back, but I didn't know which Ava I was calling to. The one I remembered wouldn't have walked away from a fight or from me. After she disappeared upstairs, the dining room felt smaller, dimmer. Dad finally broke the silence. "She's been through a lot, Mandy." So have I whispered, staring at the half-eaten pie on her plate. I know. We sat in silence for a few minutes before I stood to clear the table. As I wiped down the placemats, I noticed she'd drawn something in the condensation from her water glass, just a tiny sketch, a half-moon, and an owl. I didn't erase it. That night, as I lay in bed, I wondered how much of her distance was really hers, and how much of it was the version of me she'd been fed all those years. What had our mother told her? Did she think I wanted her gone, that I never fought to see her? I hugged my pillow tighter, remembering the hundreds of letters I'd written and never sent. The birthdays I spent crying into my cake. The holidays where I set an extra place at the table, just in case. And now she was just down the hall. But it felt like she was still gone. It started with a box of Christmas decorations. Dad had asked me to bring them down from the attic. The first snow of the season was falling, just enough to sugarcoat the porch, and he thought decorating might lift the mood around the house. The attic was the one place that hadn't changed since I was a kid, still smelled like dust and old cardboard. I had to duck under the sloped ceiling, maneuvering around broken lamps and forgotten baby furniture. I found the box labeled Christmas lights shoved behind an old trunk, but what caught my eye wasn't the tangle of green wires or the wreath peeking out the top. It was a navy blue photo album with low family memories, embossed on the front in gold lettering, almost hidden beneath a blanket. I opened it on instinct. There we were. Ava, age 6, with gap-toothed grins and jelly-stained cheeks. Me 4, clinging to her like I always did. Summer birthdays, backyard tents, pillow forts, the matching pink Easter dresses our mom made us wear that one year. There was a photo of the snowball fight from Winter '05. I remembered that day. Dad had built a fort with us and Ava stuffed a snowball down my coat. I cried, but later we laughed so hard we snorted cocoa out our noses. The next page was our last Halloween together. She was a pirate. I was a pumpkin. She'd drawn a fake mustache on with a Sharpie and Mom had nearly lost it. I remember her wiping it off with a wet tissue while Ava screamed, "It's part of the costume, Mom." I flipped the pages slowly, breath catching in my throat. We'd been so close. So much closer than I let myself remember. My fingers hovered over one photo where Ava had her arm wrapped around me in front of our old swing set. We looked like a unit. A team. Something in my chest cracked. I took the album downstairs. Ava was in the kitchen, sitting at the counter, scrolling through her phone with a mug of something steaming in front of her. For once, she wasn't wearing earbuds. Her hair was pulled into a messy bun, and there was a tired look on her face that made her seem real. I poured 2 mugs of cocoa from the pot I'd started earlier, extra marshmallows in hers, and slid the album toward her on the counter. She looked at it warily. "What's this?" "Found it in the attic." She didn't open it right away. Just sipped her drink, eyes flicking between me and the worn leather cover. Then slowly she opened to the first page. She didn't say anything at first, but her hand stilled on the page, then she snorted. "Oh my God," she said, pointing to one of the photos. "You remember this, when I tried to sled down the driveway on Dad's pizza pan and nearly broke my tailbone?" I grinned. "You blamed me for it, told Mom I dared you." "Which you did," I laughed. "Only because you said you were invincible." We flipped through more pages, and the ice between us started to melt just a little. "I forgot about this dress," she said, pausing on a page with our Easter photo. "Mom made me wear tights. I hated those stupid tights." "You ripped them on purpose, right before church." Ava chuckled, a sound I hadn't heard in years. It hit me like a flash of sunlight in a dark room. "Do you remember that time we built a fort and wouldn't let Dad in unless he brought us gummy bears?" I asked. "He paid the toll," she said with a soft smile. 3 bags worth. I caught Dad standing in the hallway then, watching us with a look I hadn't seen on his face in a long time. Hope. He didn't say anything, just quietly turned and walked away, leaving us to whatever this moment was becoming. We stayed there for almost an hour, laughing in pieces, silent in others. But it was good silence. Familiar silence. The kind we used to share when we were drawing or watching cartoons side by side. At one point I asked without thinking, "Do you still draw?" Ava looked down. Then after a beat she nodded. "Sometimes, not like I used to." I wanted to ask why not, but I didn't push. Instead I flipped the page to one of us building a snowman together, both of us bundled in matching red scarves. She touched the photo gently, her fingers tracing the edge of it. "You always made the worst noses," she said quietly. "Why were they always carrots pointing sideways?" I laughed. "Because I didn't want him to look like everyone else." Ava didn't laugh that time, but her lips twitched. She leaned back in the chair, her cocoa nearly gone, and looked at me, not through me for the first time since she walked through the door. "Thanks for showing me this," she said. Her voice wasn't warm exactly, but it wasn't cold either. And that, after 10 years, was something. It didn't last. The cocoa, the laughter, the photo album, by the next week, it all felt like a strange dream we'd both pretended to believe in for an hour. Reality came crashing back like a leaky faucet, drip by drip. Tension returned to the air. It started with the dishes. "Ava, can you at least rinse them?" I asked one night, loading the dishwasher after dinner. She was already halfway up the stairs. "I cooked," she shot back. "Pretty sure that counts for something." "You microwaved frozen lasagna." She paused on the step, turning slowly. So now the sink smells like old cheese and I'm the one who ends up cleaning it every time. God, you sound exactly like Dad. The insult stung more than it should have. "I'm just asking for help." "No, you're keeping score like always." Always. She made it sound like we'd been roommates for years instead of awkward strangers under the same roof for a few weeks. By the weekend, we were fighting about everything. Who used up the last of the hot water? Why the thermostat had been changed. Whether or not she should still have a curfew at 21, Dad said yes. Ava said absolutely not, and I said maybe we could just agree on a check-in time. That suggestion ended with both of them ignoring me. Even the TV wasn't safe. One night I was curled on the couch watching a documentary about forensic science, my guilty pleasure, when Ava marched in, grabbed the remote, and switched it to some flashy reality dating show. "Hey, what happened to asking first?" I asked. "You weren't watching, you were texting." "I was literally taking notes." "That episode was about DNA matching." "Oh my God," she groaned. "You're the only person who takes notes during Netflix." I stood up, heartbeat quickening. "Why are you so mean to me all the time?" She turned, arms crossed. "Maybe because you act like some perfect little housewife, Dad's little favorite. Always so calm, so reasonable, so above it all." "That's not fair." "No, what's not fair is being dragged back here like some broken toy no one wants anymore." I opened my mouth to respond, but Dad walked in just then, holding a half-empty mug and looking about 10 years older than he had last month. "That's it," he said quietly. "Tomorrow night we're all sitting down. No yelling, no TV, just talking." He meant the gazebo, the old wooden one out back, the one he built the year before our parents split. It had always been his go-to place when things got hard. Rain, snow, didn't matter. Dad believed all serious conversations belonged outdoors, under string lights and mosquito nets. We didn't say no, but we didn't say yes either. The next evening I brought out hot cider. Ava brought her attitude. We sat on the creaky benches while Dad cleared his throat and gave some hopeful opening about starting over and working as a unit. "Not everything has to be this hard," he said. "You girls used to be inseparable." "That was before everything fell apart," Ava replied, her arms tightly crossed. Dad looked at me. "Mandy," I shifted uncomfortably. "I want peace, I really do, but I don't think we can move forward unless we talk about the real stuff, not just chores and curfews." Ava scoffed. "Oh, what now? You want a confession, a therapy circle?" "No," I said gently. "I want to understand. Why do you act like I'm the enemy?" "I don't know, Amanda. Maybe because every time Mom cried, she blamed you. Said you stayed because you liked him more, said you two didn't even ask about me." Dad flinched. "That's not true," I said, my voice breaking. "Well, that's what I heard for 10 years. The air went still. Dad reached for her hand, but she pulled away. "This was a mistake," she muttered, standing up. "You want peace? Fine, I won't speak unless I have to." She walked off toward the house. And just like that, the fragile thread between us snapped again. I sat in the gazebo for a long time after she left, hands cold, cider untouched. Then I stood, went inside, and climbed the stairs to my room. I pulled the photo album from under my bed and hugged it to my chest like a security blanket. I didn't cry. Not that night. But something inside me whispered, she's slipping away again. And this time, I might not be able to stop her. It happened on a Sunday. I had just come home from the grocery store when I saw the ambulance out front. Lights off, engine silent, but too late all the same. One of the paramedics stood on the porch with his hat in his hands, and I knew before he even opened his mouth. Heart attack, massive, immediate. Dad died alone in his chair, TV remote still in his hand, his half-finished crossword puzzle on the armrest beside him. The shock didn't register right away. I just stood there with a bag of oranges slipping from my hands and spilling across the porch. I don't even remember calling Ava. I just remember her voice on the line, flat, clipped, quiet, and then the click of her hanging up. We hadn't spoken in weeks before that call. Not really. Just polite nods in passing and arguments over whose turn it was to restock the toilet paper. After the gazebo night, something settled between us like hard ice. Now we were supposed to mourn together. Graceview Cemetery was gray the day of the funeral. Gray skies, gray stones, gray coats draped over family members who hadn't seen us since childhood. I stood at the front beside the casket, my black dress stiff and unfamiliar, clutching the folded paper of my eulogy like it was all that was keeping me upright. Ava was 2 steps behind me in heels too high for cemetery grass, her arms crossed over her chest like she was being punished for something. She hadn't said a word to me all morning. I stepped up to the mic and cleared my throat. My dad wasn't perfect, I began, my voice unsteady, but he was present. He was there for every school recital, every scraped knee, every dumb joke I told that only he laughed at. He gave the quiet kind of love, the dependable kind, and he never once made me feel like I had to earn it. I paused, looking at the crowd, distant cousins, a few old neighbors, 2 of his work buddies who wore black suits over neon green work polos. I looked down at the casket, my voice softer. He was my safe place, and now that he's gone, I don't know where to put all this love that's left. A soft murmur of tissue rustling echoed across the crowd, but from behind me came a sharper sound, a scoff. Then Ava's voice, low but pointed. Safe place for you, maybe. I froze. A few people shifted uncomfortably in their seats. I turned my head slightly, hoping I'd misheard, but she said it again, this time with more edge. Funny how memories work. I tried to keep going. He loved both of us, sure, as long as we didn't disagree. Ava, I hissed under my breath, not now. She leaned in, whispering bitterly into my ear. You can paint him however you want, doesn't make it true. That was it. I stepped back from the mic and turned fully toward her, my voice no longer soft. You didn't even live with him half your life. You ran off and believed everything Mom said without question. Her eyes flared. Because she was the only one who wanted me. The silence from the crowd was deafening. Even the wind seemed to still. You don't get to rewrite history just because you're angry, I said, voice trembling. You never even tried to understand him or me. And you never tried to understand her, she shot back. The priest cleared his throat. Someone coughed awkwardly. But neither of us moved. Finally, Ava turned on her heel and walked away, heels crunching through the gravel path, a streak of black storming toward the parked cars. I stood there, fists clenched, tears burning but not falling. After the service, relatives came up to offer condolences. They avoided mentioning the scene. Some hugged me. A few mumbled, she's grieving in her own way. But the truth was, I wasn't just grieving my father. I was grieving the last chance for a bridge between me and Ava. And it had burned in front of everyone. That night I went to bed clutching the photo album again, the pages soft from wear, corners curled from too many readings. Ava hadn't taken a single look at it since that night in the kitchen. I stared at the ceiling, my chest hollow, thinking only one thing. Now it's just the 2 of us. And somehow, that feels lonelier than ever. The parlor smelled like lilies and lemon-scented floor polish. I sat in a corner armchair, away from the murmurs and casseroles, numb fingers pressed against the waxy rim of a paper cup filled with cold coffee. People were starting to leave. Some gave me that tilted head look of pity. Others avoided my eyes altogether, maybe still reeling from the argument at the graveyard. Ava hadn't come back. I didn't expect her to. I just wanted the day to end. That's when I saw Aunt Linda. She was my mother's older sister, sharp cheekbones, white curls always styled, and a perfume that reminded me of Christmases long gone. I hadn't seen her since I was 13. I wasn't even sure she still lived in Wisconsin. But there she was, standing quietly near the memorial table, looking not at Dad's photo, but at me. She made her way over slowly, her heels quiet on the carpet, a worn manila envelope tucked under one arm. Amanda, she said, with a soft, brittle smile. Mind if I sit? I nodded, shifting over. For a moment she didn't speak. She just looked at me, really looked, and then exhaled. You look just like her. I didn't respond. I didn't want to hear about my mother. Linda glanced toward the window, then back at me. I wanted to come sooner to say something. I should have, but your mother made it very clear over the years that it wasn't my place. What do you mean? I asked, not sure I wanted the answer. She hesitated, then leaned in, her voice lowered. When your mother took Ava and left, she told her things that your dad only wanted custody of you, that he made Ava feel unwanted, said he'd never even asked about her after the split. I blinked, unable to process what I was hearing. That's not true, I said automatically. He tried to see her, he sent gifts, cards, I remember, I helped pick them out. I know, she said gently. But Ava never saw them. Your mother never gave them to her. She told Ava you two had moved on without her, that you never asked for her, that you were better off without her. I felt the air leave my lungs. She told her that? My voice cracked. Linda nodded. For years, I don't know why, maybe it made her feel justified. Your mom always saw pain as proof of loyalty. She couldn't stand the idea that Ava might forgive your father, or you. My fingers clenched the paper cup so tightly it collapsed in my hand. She poisoned her, I whispered. All this time, Ava thought we left her. She did, Linda said, but not by accident, not without intention. I sat there stunned, memories flashing like lightning, Ava's guarded looks, her sarcasm, the bitterness in her voice when she said, "You didn't even ask about me." It hadn't come from nowhere, it had been fed to her, cultivated. And suddenly her coldness made sense. Why are you telling me this now? I asked. Because you're the only one left who might be able to reach her, Linda said, placing the envelope on my lap. This has copies of some letters your dad sent. I saved them. I don't know if it'll help, but it's the truth. I looked down at the envelope like it might burn me. Letters Ava never saw, proof of love she thought didn't exist. As Linda stood to leave, she touched my shoulder. You both lost the same mother, she said, but in very different ways. And then she was gone. I sat alone in that armchair as the sun began to set outside the parlor window, the envelope heavy in my hands, my heart heavier still. And for the first time, I didn't feel angry at Ava. I felt heartbreak because she hadn't walked away from me. She'd been pushed. It was a Thursday when the floor dropped out from under me. I had taken a half day from work, mentally drained from everything. The funeral, Aunt Linda's revelation, that manila envelope still sitting unopened on my desk. I hadn't spoken to Ava since the cemetery. I told myself I'd reach out soon, just not yet. When I walked through the front door, the house felt eerily quiet. Stillness used to mean comfort in this house. My dad reading in the den, the low hum of the dishwasher in the kitchen. Now it felt like a stranger's home. Grief lived in the corners, and I didn't know where to set my heart down. I dropped my keys on the hallway table and pulled out my phone, checking notifications out of habit. That's when I saw it, a text from Ava, sent 2 minutes ago. Ava, bye loser, I'll come by tomorrow. Our late father's house is almost sold. Kiss mark. I stared at the screen, waiting for my brain to catch up. What? My fingers flew across the keyboard. Me, what are you talking about? No reply. I opened the family email account Dad had used for anything legal, passwords still worked, and found a forwarded message from a real estate broker, addressed to both Ava and me. Except, I'd never seen it before. The subject line read, "Offer accepted, 136 Grovewood Drive." Attached was a purchase agreement, final signatures pending. The buyer had already sent a deposit. I froze. Our house, Dad's house, was being sold, and I hadn't signed anything. I checked the signature fields. There it was, Amanda Lowe, in script I'd never seen before. I sat down hard on the stairs, heart thudding in my ears. I called Mr. Redmond. He picked up on the second ring, his voice warm and steady, the same way it had been since I was a teenager filing FAFSA paperwork with Dad by my side. "Mr. Redmond," I said, voice trembling. "It's Amanda. Did he change his will?" There was a long pause. "No, dear, your father's will was finalized 6 years ago. You were the sole inheritor. The house and all assets were to be transferred to you. Why do you ask?" Because Ava had a new will. Scan PDF she must have sent to the real estate office. It looked official, letterhead, signature, date just 1 month before Dad died. Because she was selling the house. Because I had been erased. I explained everything, what I saw, what I hadn't signed. Mr. Redmond's voice dropped an octave. "I never prepared a revised will, and if she's presenting one, it didn't come from me." His words settled like concrete in my stomach. "Amanda," he said gently, "I think it's time we looked into this." I sat on the stairs for a long time after hanging up, the house around me suddenly colder. Quieter, like it already knew it was being taken. And the worst part? A tiny part of me had just started to forgive Ava, to see her pain, to believe she could come back. But this felt like theft. Of more than property. It felt like she'd stolen him, too. Mr. Redmond's office hadn't changed in years. The leather chairs still creaked, the antique clock still ticked too loud, and the same bowl of peppermints sat untouched on the corner of his desk. But today, nothing about it felt familiar. I sat across from him, my hands balled in my lap, watching as he flipped through every file he had labeled under my father's name. "I've been your dad's lawyer since Ava was in braces," he muttered, frustration creeping into his usually calm tone. He was meticulous. He updated things promptly, filed copies here and at home. This new will Ava presented. It didn't come from my hands. He opened a locked cabinet, pulling out more files. Nothing recent. Nothing dated after 2017. No revised will, no mention of Ava. Could he have used another attorney? I asked, even though the thought made my skin crawl. Mr. Redmond paused, then slowly shook his head. "Unlikely. Your father was loyal. If he had made a change, he would have told me, especially something this significant." I stared down at the folder in his hands. But what if Ava forged it? If she did, we'll need proof, originals, signatures, witnesses who can confirm what's real and what's not. And that's when I remembered it. The drawer. Dad's old desk, the one in his home office. He had always kept one drawer locked, the small brass key hidden behind the framed photo of me from my high school graduation. I only saw him open it a few times over the years. He said it was where he kept the things that mattered most. "I have to go," I said suddenly, rising from my seat. "I think I know where it is." Mr. Redmond nodded. "Call me if you find anything, I'll be ready." I drove home like I was chasing something, heart in my throat, snow melting on the windshield, the ghost of Dad's voice playing in my head. "Keep the key where it's safe, Mandy. And don't let anyone talk you out of what you know is right." The house was quiet. I ignored the mail piled on the entryway table, the echo of grief still lingering in the hallway. I headed straight for the office. The framed photo was still on the shelf. The key was still taped to the back. My hands shook as I fitted into the drawer and turned. It opened with a small click. Inside was a neat stack of documents. I rifled through them, insurance papers, birth certificates, an envelope of old family photos, until I saw the black folder. I pulled it out carefully, heart hammering. There it was. Last will and testament of Richard Allen Lowe, dated 6 years ago, just as Mr. Redmond said. His handwriting was unmistakable, slanted, angular, distinct. The signature at the bottom was his, and 2 familiar names were listed as witnesses, Mr. Redmond and a retired neighbor who used to mow our lawn. My name filled every page, not Ava's. There were no revisions, no additions. The house, the savings, the assets, everything had been left to me. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Vindication hit like a rush of air in a windowless room. But the relief was quickly followed by another feeling, resolve. This wasn't over, not even close. Ava had tried to erase me with a signature she didn't own. And now, I finally had the truth in my hands. The copy of Dad's will didn't just sit quietly in my hands, it moved mountains. I met with Mr. Redmond first thing the next morning, folder in tow, the ink still as crisp as the last time Dad touched it. The moment he laid eyes on the document, he let out a sharp breath. "That's his signature," he confirmed. "No doubt about it. And those witnesses, solid. This is the real deal, Amanda." And just like that, we had a foundation. Mr. Redmond filed an emergency petition with the probate court, asking for an immediate halt to the house's sale. Simultaneously, he flagged the forged will Ava had submitted and requested an investigation. Within days, things started moving faster than I ever imagined. The notary seal on Ava's version. It belonged to a man named Clyde Voss, a newly licensed attorney with a paper-thin reputation and a bad habit of pushing legal boundaries. Redmond and his team dug in. Emails, timestamps, document metadata. The whole thing unraveled like a cheap sweater. It turned out Clyde had submitted multiple suspicious wills in the past year alone, 2 of which were already under quiet review. Ava's document, sloppily doctored. Forged signature, backdated files, even the notary registration was expired. By the end of the week, Clyde Voss was disbarred and arrested at a gas station outside Racine. But Ava disappeared. Her car was still parked in our driveway the night the news broke, but she was gone. Her bedroom stripped of clothes and makeup, phone charger missing, closet half empty. She didn't leave a note, just a voicemail. I played it 3 times before I saved it. "You think you won? You really think this fixes everything? You don't get to stand there and pretend you're the victim, Amanda. You never saw what I saw, you never lived what I lived. Click. Later that night, she went live on her old Instagram account. The video was barely 2 minutes long, filmed from a motel room with ugly beige curtains and a tear-streaked face I barely recognized. I did what I had to do, she said. He never loved me the way he loved her. She always had the good version of him. I had the one who yelled, the one who forgot birthdays, so no, I don't feel sorry. But let's be honest, he's gone, and she's still trying to play Princess of the Ruins. The video ended there. The comments were brutal. Half sympathy, half outrage. I didn't respond, I didn't repost, I didn't message her. What could I say? That I didn't know she saw that version of Dad, that I didn't know she felt left out, unwanted, erased. It was too late for apologies. And now it was about justice. A week later, the court ruled in our favor, my favor. The sale of the house was frozen indefinitely. The official will, Dad's real will, was authenticated and entered into record. All Ava's forged documents were deemed invalid. But the judge wanted Ava present for the final hearing. So now we waited. Ava was out there, posting cryptic rants, hiding behind burner numbers, lashing out online. She was spiraling, and part of me wanted to scream, to shake her, to ask how it had come to this. But another part, the part that had stood in the gazebo last year pleading for peace, that part was gone. Now I was steel. And I would see this through. The call came 2 days before the hearing. I was in the kitchen, rinsing a chipped mug Dad used to drink from every morning, black coffee, 2 sugars. I hadn't used it since the funeral. But that day I needed something steady in my hands. My phone buzzed on the counter, no name, just unknown caller. I almost let it ring out, but some part of me knew. I picked up, holding my breath. Amanda, Ava's voice burst through, high and panicked. You have to stop, please, this isn't what you think, none of it is. She was crying. Or trying not to. I could hear her pacing, hear the uneven rhythm of panic rising in her chest. They're going to arrest me, she choked. You don't understand what this will do to me. I kept my voice even, cold, calm. What you did is what's doing this to you. No, she snapped. That's not true, you can't do this to me, I'm your sister. The word caught in her throat like it hurt to say. I was your sister, I said, setting the mug down. Before you tried to erase me. There was a long pause on the other end. Breathing, sniffing. You're not perfect, Amanda, she whispered. You think you are, always the golden one, Dad's favorite. I was just the mistake Mom took with her. My heart clenched, but I didn't soften. You forged his name, Ava. You tried to steal the last thing he gave me. You didn't just lie, you tried to bury the truth, and you knew it. This isn't about being the favorite. This is about right and wrong. You're enjoying this, she hissed. No, I said. Not running from it. And before she could throw another word at me, I ended the call. The courthouse was buzzing the morning of the hearing. Press hadn't picked it up, thank God, but word had spread among old neighbors, family friends, even some of Ava's old high school crowd. A few sat in the gallery, whispering behind cupped hands as we entered the room. Ava looked like a ghost. Her makeup was flawless, but her eyes were bloodshot. Her once perfect posture sagged under the weight of consequence. Her new attorney stood beside her, a woman this time, silent and efficient. I sat with Mr. Redmond, the black folder balanced on my lap like a shield. When the judge entered, the room quieted instantly. The proceedings were swift. The original will was presented, verified, and accepted as valid. The forged document was officially declared fraudulent. Clyde Voss's name came up briefly, already indicted, already out of the picture. Then came Ava's turn. The judge looked at her over rimless glasses. Ms. Lowe, you stand before this court having submitted falsified legal documents with the intent to commit real estate fraud. Due to the nature of the crime and your clean record, you are hereby sentenced to 2 years of probation, 200 hours of community service, and full revocation of any claim to your father's estate. The gavel came down like thunder. It was done. Ava didn't look at me as she was led out. She didn't cry. She didn't speak. She just walked stiffly, shoulders drawn, lips pressed shut. But as she passed me, I saw her glance down at the black folder still in my hands. She knew. This time I hadn't let go. I stepped outside into the December air, crisp and biting. The courthouse steps stretched out in front of me like a runway, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was chasing something I'd lost. I felt like I'd won something I never thought I'd get back. My truth, my name, my father's house. The snow had melted, and early spring was nudging the garden beds awake when I decided to reach out. It had been 3 months since the court hearing. 3 months since Ava's sentence was handed down, and she vanished from my daily thoughts, but not from my memories. The silence between us was different now, not tense, not angry, just suspended, like a held breath. It wasn't forgiveness that made me reach out. It was the weight of what was unfinished. I called Uncle Jard, our mother's younger brother. Stayed out of the drama, kept to himself, but I knew he still talked to Ava now and then. He was the only one who wouldn't turn it into gossip. I just want to talk, I told him. One time, somewhere quiet, no lawyers, no guilt trips, just us. He didn't say much, just I'll ask her. A week passed, then another. And then on a rainy Thursday morning I got the message. Ava, if it's in the gazebo, fine, I'll come. That night, I lit the string lights Dad had installed years ago. The bulbs still worked. Their soft yellow glow flickered against the fading blue sky like a heartbeat. I brought out 2 chairs, 2 mugs of chamomile tea, and the photo album just in case. She arrived just before 7, her posture was different. Shoulders no longer defensive, eyes darker than I remembered. The exhaustion clung to her in a way makeup couldn't cover, but she still wore eyeliner thick like armor. Hi, I said. She nodded. You still live here? It's not just a house, I replied. It's him. She didn't answer, but she stepped into the gazebo and sat across from me. For a while, we listened to the frogs in the distance, the trees whispering, the clink of her spoon as she stirred her tea without sipping it. Then she spoke. I hated you, she said flatly. I blamed you for everything. I nodded. I know. I thought you stopped writing, that you didn't care, that he didn't care. I reached into my pocket, pulled out a folded letter, one of the ones Dad had written her. One of many that never made it past Mom's gatekeeping. I passed it to her. Ava unfolded it with slow, trembling fingers. She didn't read it aloud, but I watched her lips move silently as her eyes scanned each line. At one point she stopped, blinked hard, and pressed her hand to her mouth. He sent this, she whispered. He sent all of them, she just never gave them to you. Tears spilled down her cheeks, quiet and without permission. I thought I knew everything, she said. I built my whole life around this pain, around this idea that I was unwanted. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees. She was hurting, I know that, but she made us the battleground. Ava didn't deny it, she just nodded. I never questioned her, she whispered. Even when it didn't add up, I wanted to believe I had someone on my side. You did, I said. You always did. She looked up at me, stunned. I don't know how to come back from this, she said. I took a deep breath. You don't have to come back, just don't walk away this time. Her lip trembled. After everything I did. I'm not saying I forget it, I replied. But I'm saying we're still sisters, and maybe we find a new way to be that. She reached for the tea, her hands still shaking. After a moment she said, I'm sorry, Amanda, I really am. I don't expect you to say it back. I just needed you to hear it. And that was enough for now. We sat there until the lights dimmed, talking about old movies, about the swing set that used to sit where the garden was now. She asked if I still kept her sketchbook in the attic. I told her I did. And when she stood to leave, she didn't look angry or ashamed. She looked lighter. Before she walked away, she paused, her back to me. I want to help fix things, she said. If you'll let me, I nodded. We'll figure it out, together. For the first time in a long time, it didn't feel like a lie. 1 year later, the house feels different. Brighter. Not because of the paint. I did redo the walls, though. Soft sage greens and warm creams replaced the somber tones of the past. But the real shift was quieter, deeper. It lived in the way the air moved through open windows now. In the way I no longer flinched at old memories but welcomed them in, like old friends finally returning home. The living room had become my workspace. Sunlight streamed across the desk where I met with clients remotely for my new tech consultancy. I'd even set up a meditation nook in the corner, with a salt lamp and a floor cushion where Dad's recliner used to be. He would have laughed at that. And then probably tried it. Ava came by once or twice a month now. Sometimes for dinner. Sometimes just to sit and talk. It was never perfect. There were still quiet moments that felt too heavy, words we hadn't found yet, but we were showing up. That Saturday, she stood barefoot on a step stool, sleeves rolled up, a smear of eggshell paint on her cheek as we tackled the guest room. The one she used to storm into with slammed doors and heavy sighs. Now she was the one suggesting accent walls and throwing in bad puns like, this shade's appealing. I still don't know why you didn't just turn this room into your office, she said, brushing paint near the window trim. I like the idea of it being ready, I said simply, in case someone needs a soft place to land. She was quiet for a second, then she looked over her shoulder, paintbrush still in hand. Thanks for not giving up on me. I met her eyes. I never stopped missing you, I said softly. I just stopped waiting. She didn't say anything, she didn't have to. Instead, she dipped her brush again and got back to painting, humming a tune we both half remembered from a cartoon we used to love. Outside, the garden was blooming again. And inside, for the first time in a long time, so were we.